Production, production, production. Listen, man, every twist this season has been a flop. And it's because the alliance this season has been on code too strong. That's just the facts of it all here. If anyone's trying to create the case that the Cookout Alliance isn't the most dominant alliance of all time, you can include BB Nigeria, BB Australia, BB UK, BB Shadow Realm. At the end of the day, put any alliance up to this team, and they getting sent to the Shadow Realm they damn self. Understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm tired of people downplaying the greatness of this group of six. Level 6 could not hold this team's jockstrap. I gotta keep it a bean here. Listen, your game is so good when Claire, the woman with all the incentive in the world, the woman who in the edit found out the Black Alliance was the Black Alliance somehow, but then all of a sudden when DX gets eliminated, he doesn't know the Alliance anymore selectively. We'll get into some of those goodbye messages, but let's just keep it a bean here tonight. All right? They rigged a twist to Claire. In my opinion, it was done to make sure people didn't cancel their Paramount Plus. Production, I'm here to let you all know. I feel like the casual fans and the super fans who are DX fans, they're even more disgusted than before. You were better off letting a Cookout member just get the dang twist, because now they feel like y'all are trolling them. And I'd argue Claire is trolling DX fans herself. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the critically acclaimed The Pop the Trunk podcast, now Patreon exclusively sponsored Hall of Fame. Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. With me, of course, is your humble host, Dave Smith, Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Pearl Game Ultra, Smith Dog Trio, The Rant God, Hotep Thanos, Throne Thanos, Metro Kaiba, the Pro Black Prodigy, the Shadow Realm Shaman, the Pronoun Punisher, the No Sleep Assassin, here to bring balance back to Big Brother US, Season 23, all of the above, on that ISET test, and ACT, you know what it is. And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, we ain't done a Sunday night rant this whole season, okay? It's always a first time for everything, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, shout outs to the super chat. Y'all coming in the intro with the super chat. Let's get it cracking. The Last Done drops a dub for the kid saying, been waiting for your commentary, coach. Well, I've been waiting for y'all too. You feel it, dig me? Oh, I'm excited right now, all right? Jake Paul got to compete with me, not the other way around. We gonna talk that hot stuff tonight, and I truly appreciate you, Last Done. Hold on, let me head up to the Batcave real quick. Let me give you your Infinity Stone, because I'm a man of my word and I don't want to forget. But I promise, I'm finna unleash the ankle weights in a second. The tuning exam has begun, and I'm seeing a lot of people acting like experts, and I gotta clear the story, okay? There's a lot of people. Now, here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna come humble tonight, all right? I'm not full of myself. I'm gonna admit I was a bit wrong. I did not know Tiffany had Claire under this much control. But I'd argue Claire is so mentally defeated from DX being sent to the Shadow Realm already. She knows she can't win this game. At this point, it feels as if the non-black players are in the Hunger Games just to get 7th place. 7th place has become its own title now. Its own consolation prize. It's like, well, I was the best that wasn't black, though. It feels as if a lot of these players are playing to that win con. Matter of fact, it's not even a win con. They're just playing to that con at this point. That's what it feels like. You now have your Infinity Stone, The Last Done. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to unleash. But understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not full of myself. I'm a humble man. I'll admit it. I did not think Tiffany had Claire spun around her finger like this. I'm impressed. And tonight, for the Tiffany fans, I'm going to give Tiffany some credit. What can I say? She deserves it. Hannah deserves it. Azza deserves it. I believe every Cookout member this week deserves a bit of credit except maybe Kylan. So at the end of the day, oh yeah, I'm going to call it down the middle. But y'all know me. I see the game a little bit differently, and I'm going to stick to my guns. But first thing I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, I want to speed through some of the funny things I noticed from this episode. We'll get into a bit of, matter of fact, we can go into DX's goodbye messages first, go into tonight's episode, then we can head into the notes over this weekend's live feeds. I feel like that's the best way to do it in chronological order. Now, if any of y'all didn't see DX's goodbye messages, Tiffany said her bond was real with him and she loves him. It was a real touching moment. SB said DX is smarter than her, more athletic than her, and more likable while not being loyal to her. All of those statements were facts, but DX wasn't trying to hear it. Kylan dry snitches on the Cookout by saying he was part of an alliance since week one, but doesn't name drop them. A lot of fans are ticked off with Kylan about this. You know, they feel like he gave up a recipe. You feel it, dig me? I don't know. Josh infamously flipped the jury in his favor by dry snitching on Paul Beta-Hamian during BB19. So I just want to throw it out there that this could have been Kylan's way of trying to offset some of his poor jury management. Possibly. But once again, I think this should be a decision the entire six agrees upon. But, hey, it's an individual game. At your own dismay, choose what you want. But at the end of the day, man, if you don't make the end, you're going to look like Boo Boo the Fool yourself. So I can't really say this is poor gameplay until we see the end game. After DX friend-zoned Hannah for America to see, this is one thing I failed to mention in the last rant. I can't believe I didn't mention it. You know, everyone's so mad over Xavier not choosing Ozza, but they still ship Hannah and DX, and DX straight up friend-zoned her on national TV. Listen, I've never seen Julie Chen throw a softball at a man the way she threw a softball at DX. She wanted him to claim Hannah. She was like, is there going to be something in the future? DX was like, expect the unexpected, Julie. Well, DX, if she's asking you this question, she expects for you to hook up with her. That means you're saying you won't by saying expect the unexpected. Just say you're not into her like that. But once again, because he's not a black man, he doesn't get the same vitriol from some sisters. That's important to mention as well. Hannah says she tried to keep him but couldn't and will miss his cooking and sense of humor. DX then acts like he doesn't know who the group of people are that Kylan referred to, despite production trying to make it seem like he and Claire knew for 2 weeks. Most black fans believe DX is willfully being ignorant here to justify him wanting Xavier taken out before Final Six. DX was so focused on Kylan, Xavier, and Alyssa, but he was so sure SB wasn't. But he was so sure Hannah wasn't part of it. Oh, no, he was so sure SB wasn't part of it. That pretty much sums up who DX blames the most for why he was taken out, and it also shows why he needed to go. But it really tells me he wants the Final Five to be Big D, Claire, Ozza, Hannah, and Tiffany. That Final Five would be terrible, not because the feminists had their way, but because there is not enough deserving winners left in that five. Let's keep it a beam. It really feels like people are scared to admit a black alliance exists on national television. I mean, we even saw it tonight, huh? DX eventually says they're playing a fantastic game and narrows it down to Kai, X, Tiffany, Big D, and Alyssa of all people. He thinks Ozza and Hannah aren't in it, but he did believe Tiffany was. Does this mean DX would vote for Ozza to win over Tiffany? Or does it mean he doesn't think Ozza is playing good enough? Why is Ozza the one black person he doesn't think is aligned with the black players? Did Brittany convince him that Ozza was only working with her? Did Ozza miss DX better than anyone else in the house? I got questions. Julie refuses to confirm or deny, as she should, and offers DX one final comment. He says he can't wait to watch the season back. DX then realizes America gave him all that money to be anti-black before saying this game sucks. Now let's get into Sunday's episode, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, I mentioned this for a reason because this bridges on over to Claire. Understand, Claire was the one bestowed upon DX's will. She was supposed to carry out the orders that America felt DX would have carried out if he was here. Understand, production worked 4 different times to keep DX from last week onto this week because they wanted him to do something with Coin of Destiny that would shake the game up. For Claire to cry so much over DX leaving, and then this week get handed a twist, and then do nothing interesting with it. Say whatever you want, ladies and gentlemen, but Claire is a massive flop, whether you're a fan of Tiffany or not. She's a flop. Because you can say whatever you want about X having Alyssa under control. Alyssa would have did what she wanted with that twist. You can say whatever you want about Ozza having Brittany under control. Brittany would have done what she wanted with that twist. All right? Now, some of this does give credence to Tiffany having more control over her person. But my theory on this is, once again, Claire is more mentally defeated from being on the block every week after her 2 weeks of safety to the point where she's almost scared straight. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, if I didn't know any better, Claire is like Reek from Game of Thrones. Okay? Remember Reek from Game of Thrones? He was around Ramsay Bolton long enough where he just didn't want no more smoke. He lost the will to fight back. He said, whatever you want, sir. Huh? You want me to feed you, sir? Huh? You want me to go hunt, sir? Huh? You want me to go capture Sansa, sir? Now, I'm not trying to make this all about Game of Thrones, but Big Brother is a Game of Thrones, baby. To win this game, you got to be a king or queen. Make no mistake about that. So understand, in my opinion, Claire is giving off them Reek vibes. She's giving off those no mas, no mas. She's giving off those vibes. I'm talking Roberto Duran versus my brother uh Sugar Ray Leonard. I'm talking that type of vibe, okay? I think she's checked out. Because if she truly had ambition to win this game, even as a Cookout fan, she throws up Big D every time over SB and she takes her chances. Every time. Now, because of tonight's episode, we found out that Big D also threw the HOH tour. So now it adds up a little bit more why Claire was a little scared to make a huge move. She knows the whole house would have knew she did it. You see what I'm saying here? But at the end of the day, Claire, you had a valuable opportunity. Production showed up with a Deus Ex Machina envelope twist. Crypto Claire's envelopes. Just for you, coach. Because they wanted you not only to be the narrator of this week, because they just won another non-black HOH before the end of the season. Let's keep it real. Also, it's the end of the month. Keep in mind, they wanted that to overlap with next month. That way people re-up for Paramount Plus, having some false hope that a non-black winner would win. Understand the con game there. But my point is, at the end of the day, coach, Claire, you were handed an opportunity no black player in the past 20 years on the bottom of this game was ever handed just because they were in trouble. You were handed something no black player on the bottom of the last 20 years was ever handed just because they cried a lot the week before. Let's keep it real. BB15, I saw Candace get treated like dog crap. Let's keep it a bean. Dominique was treated like dog crap. BB19, she ain't get nothing. But the sister's acting and she's on Netflix, so I ain't mad at you. Get your money, sister. At the end of the day, I ain't mad at it. But my point still stands, all right? And I'm comparing her to a black woman in a similar situation because they're both women, all right? But I'm just saying, if you look at things in a vacuum, Claire has been given a lot more help this season than anyone black has ever gotten before the Cookout's creation. She got a 2 weeks of safety for winning one comp in 4 weeks. Then she goes on the block twice as a pawn, and she gets the most overpowered twist and chooses to do what Tiffany wants? I almost regret putting her in my top 2 WTF now. Or top 3, I think she was. I regret it now. Because I expected more from her. I was scared this week. I'm going to be completely transparent with y'all. Y'all had an extra day to sit on it, so I'm going to be a little bit more candid. I was so nervous with Xavier as the third nominee this week. I was terrified, y'all. Because I had a feeling Claire would get that power. So now I'm thinking, whoa, what's finna happen here? Now, when she kept noms the same initially, I still had my antennas up. Why? Because if SB win that veto, Claire, she just put Big D up right then and there. Boom. Black man gone. So I was very skeptical. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, when I tell this story, it's going to make a lot more sense as we move along. But I got to bring y'all along. I got to give y'all the true feeling of being a black superfan during this week where it felt like maybe the Cookout ain't going to make it out of this week. And then when you see Crypto Claire completely flop, it really makes me look at her like, yo, you were an alternate for a reason. Exposed. You feel the dig me, coach? You know what I mean? Now, the episode tonight began where it left off with Tiffany as the newly crowned HOH and Claire, Ozzy, and Hannah celebrating in the storage room. They actually have this fake 4-woman alliance right now, and Claire's buying into it. A lot of these things play a role in why Claire flopped this week, so it's important for me to document these things, okay? Kylan is bawling his eyes out about DX leaving, but he doesn't regret it because it was for the 6. Xavier clowns this newly formed Monarchy alliance for the whole world to see and makes Alyssa and SB look like fools. Tiffany had a very sweet moment talking about wanting to provide a better life for her son, Christian. I thought it was very wholesome. I like to see scenes like this. That's why I'm documenting these things. Hannah had a very touching moment as well, being very sad about having to let DX go. They were tugging on the heartstrings pretty hard early in this episode. We see Big D celebrate Tiffany getting Beyonce in her music. Beyonce's CD or Beyonce's album or whatever. That was funny. And then we see the Coin of Destiny situation commence. Never in my wildest dreams did I think it was going to be a situation where you roll a coin into like a little hole, and then depending on how many coins you roll, you have that amount of chances for the coin flip. I'm going to be honest with y'all, production. Y'all made this very confusing. I'm someone who usually can break this down real easily. I had to watch this twice back, this Coin of Destiny stuff. I still was a little lost. I was like, okay, 4 people competed for it, 3 of them threw it, but I don't understand where the points kicked in if all it had to do was be flipped once, be heads, and then one person won. I was completely confused about it. Now, at the end of the day, it's pretty inconsequential because we know the result by now because it's Sunday, but my point still stands. I think they could have did a better job with this twist altogether. And I think Claire did them no favors by being such a flop with it anyway. Um, it really made this feel like filler, because nothing changed, right? And that's really the biggest problem you have. If you want to keep people viewer retention up, you need to provide something new for them to experience. And unfortunately, I mean, once noms went up, you could have pretty much fast forwarded the rest of the episode, you know? So yes, this makes Claire look even worse because Big D even threw the comp to her. Seriously, this makes her look like a terrible player to casuals and superfans. Sure, fans will hate SB for taking out DX, but most of these fans threw money to Claire, believing she would not she would play like DX, not Tiffany. The coin flips on head, so Claire is clearly the secret HOH. When Kylan sees his name pop up on the screen, he began to laugh. Did y'all notice that? Kylan is turning into the Joker. All right, he is breaking character a little bit. Kylan. Tiffany even looked at him. She gave him the stink eye from the new guy. Remember that with Eddie Griffin, coach? She looked at him like, hey, man, don't you laugh about this. You're supposed to be taking this to heart. You and SB on the block. You're supposed to be a possible target here. You ain't supposed to be laughing about this, Oh, and in the notes, we're going to get into SB. Oh, she bawled her eyes out about this, coach. And none of us feel sorry for her because at the end of the day, this is what needed to happen, huh? You get the high profile, you get the 4 wanted stars from taking out a goon in DX, a certified star in DX. Hey, your wanted level's too high, and we got to send the tanks and helicopters in. It is what it is, but that's neither here nor there. Now, so Kylan chuckles a little bit, almost breaks character. Claire says she kept noms the same to respect Tiffany's game. Claire is easily one of the worst players this season now. I'm not going to go back there. Let's get into these notes now because I really want to unleash. And at the end of the day, today's episode, they really skimmed through some stuff that I think played a role in why Claire is a flop. And I think if I document these things and make more sense out of them, they will make more sense. Also, I'm going to explain a lot of the stuff post-veto as well because I had a little bit more time to come up with some more concise theories. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Let's start off on Thursday night. Please, if you haven't done so already, please do not forget to smash that like button and share this with all the fans of Big Brother 23 that you rock with. Here we go. Feeds return around 4:06 p.m. Pacific time as Tiffany, Hannah, Oz, and Claire celebrate her HOH win. And the fact that SB is going to be taken out for getting out DX, all of these 4 women were close to DX in one way or another, so I'm happy all of them get the chance to get their revenge after the Vengeance of Kings. All 4 ladies discuss SB and Alyssa both being very unlikely to get Coin of Destiny. Alyssa is down to 0 BB bucks, and SB is down to 50. Technically speaking, SB still has a shot at Coin of Destiny because of the Crypto Claire envelope twist, but it would take fans to like her, and all 4 women know fans probably hate SB for getting out DX, which lots of fans do. While Tiffany and Claire celebrate but try not to go overboard in front of Kylan, SB is telling Big D she can't compete for Coin of Destiny without getting $200 in one day. Big D has SB believing he thinks he's going up, but I honestly do believe Big D thought he could be going up. Tiffany even clowned him in front of cams about this. Ironically, Tiffany only won this HOH because of the recipe DX stole from Azza and gave to Tiffany. That helped her study habits, and that's the reason why her and Hannah did so well, ironically enough. I'm not trying to sully Tiffany's second comp win of the season by any means, but without DX being a Fruit Loop dingus, Tiffany probably doesn't win this comp, and we may have Alyssa's HOH. For that reason alone, Cookout fans should count their blessings because Hannah didn't throw this comp like I originally thought. Shoutouts to Miss Selena who corrected me on that. Big D believes it will be someone within their newly formed Final 5 that gets targeted by Tiffany, meaning SB, Kylan, Big D, Xavier, and Alyssa are the only possible noms this week for Tiffany. Big D is playing SB perfectly based on how last week went, because Big D also explained to Kai and X that they had to let SB or Alyssa go in exchange for the ladies letting DX go a week ago. That's another important detail here. And it's clear SB doesn't feel that nervous right now because SB last week formed a Final 3 deal with Big D and Kylan. So it makes sense she would be rooting for Big D to win Secret HOH to cover the other 4 and usurp Tiffany from power. SB's ideal Final 5 seems to be Claire, Tiffany, Big D, and Kylan. But the more I look at it, it seems like her ideal Final 5 was actually her, Kylan, Big D, Azza, and someone else. I don't know. Based off how certain things have went down, it seems like she wanted them jokers with her at the end. But we'll never know now, I guess. No cap, I was rooting for Big D to win Coin of Destiny as well, because I knew the alternative was Claire getting a twist rigged to her, so a non-black person could have the possibility of more TV time to not run away more fans from another month of Paramount Plus. I also wanted Big D as HOH for pure chaos and entertainment, but with that said, like I said in the last rant, SB leaving is what's best for the Six than Claire leaving. So I'm rolling with Production's punches this week, as long as the Six stays intact. Hannah speaks to Ozzy in the storage room alone. Hannah says she misunderstood the question she went out on. Apologies. Ozzy says they need SB out because after that, nobody can beat Hannah in memory comps. So the strategy is clear here. SB gotta go, and Ozzy, Hannah, and Tiffany will try to fit in Claire as the final +1 to leave if they can pull it off. Hannah isn't worried about SB getting 100 BB bucks at all because she took DX out, and that is a fantastic read to make them fearless about targeting her this week. SB is screwed by America and production for making a big move, while Claire is helped by American production for making no moves all game. All she had to do was be close to DX, and she is on the verge of being handed one of the strongest twists ever. Talk about being innocent by association. My problem is, black people on the bottom were never handed powers like this just to change it up. So for me, this feels like the Hunger Games when the head game maker would change stuff up just for shits and giggles. Some people would be casualties of the twist he would create, and some would only survive because of the twist themselves. This twist was always designed to make a casualty out of a Cookout member because production purposely introduced more money when Cookout members were guaranteed the twist. That in itself proves they wanted anyone else to get it, and since nobody else could get it but Claire, my prediction was always going to be right because I knew production as well as anyone covering the game. They wanted DX to get out Xavier with this twist. You can feel it based on how Xavier's being blamed so much for a move he didn't even make in DX leaving. We didn't even get to see Xavier's goodbye message to DX. A lot of fans won't admit it, but they give off energy that implies they wish there was one less black man on this season so DX could replace him in Cookout. They don't like X for his preferences, but these same fans just let DX friend-zone Hannah to the world and didn't bat an eyelash. Clearly DX has preferences too, but he isn't judged by them because he doesn't say what his are. That's where you go wrong, Xavier. Just keep them to yourself and you'll be fine, because your game they can't knock. Many fans speculate Claire has a crush on DX and vice versa. This would explain why Claire seemed to be jealous of Hannah for weeks on end. I'd like to say I would be surprised if DX and Claire became a thing, but I wouldn't be because DX always preferred Claire over these black women because he couldn't win next to anyone else but her. If someone asks you if there is a future between you and a woman and you say expect the unexpected, that's basically the nicest way of saying no there is. I'm saying this to say, Hannah, Tiffany, and Ozzy shouldn't beat themselves up about doing what needed to be done for the mission. I commend these sisters for not keeping DX, even if their hearts told them otherwise. And now with Tiffany winning an HOH and everyone being so happy about it, maybe now people will show more respect to these brothers who won harder HOHs versus harder competition earlier in the season. Kylan and Xavier cleared the house of all the comp beasts and major threats so these Cookout ladies could stunt on them hoes during these moments. I'm happy they are taking advantage of it because the brothers needed them to do it for the Cookout to remain hidden in plain sight. Contrary to popular belief, all I ever wanted was for everyone in the Six to balance out the heavy burden of the mission by spreading out the comp wins. Now with Tippy Toes winning her first HOH, we are one step closer to the most exceptional Final Six ever created. Alyssa tells Xavier in the bathroom about DX trying to force a last-second flip while he was in solitary. How Alyssa refused to do it because X wasn't there, but Alyssa also tells Xavier about how DX called SB the Nicole Franzel of this season during his speech, and how his pitch to stay involved X being a third nom and him possibly needing DX around as a shield to stay. Now, I gotta keep it a bean. Calling a white woman Nicole Franzel might be the most safe racial slur in Big Brother history now. Because the way SB took it, she knew what it meant. Can we keep it a bean tonight? Can we keep it a bean tonight? I'm going to leave it at that. All right? Of course, none of this worked because of Cookout, but I'm documenting this to show Alyssa caught Xavier up to speed on what he missed during the 24 hours to a certain extent. Xavier realized DX didn't hug him for long after he was voted out because he must have realized X sealed his fate by securing votes against DX and having no one willing to go against it for an entire day. So now it makes more sense why Xavier's goodbye message wasn't shown as well. DX is probably bitter towards X because he outplayed him, but he probably is more bitter towards Kylan and SB. Kylan admitted, and I think that's factual because Claire right now seems to be more against Kylan than Xavier. She's taken a U-turn. So that lets you know the personal and emotional ties now have turned Claire into more of a kamikaze agent. She just wants to blow up your game because she knows she getting 7th place at best. You know what I mean? Now, Kylan admitted around 4:30 p.m. that he didn't throw the HOH. He legit got eliminated over the wrong color that SB told him. So, hey, I'ma own it. I was wrong. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I get stuff right a lot. When I get it wrong, I'ma own that. I got this wrong. I thought Kylan threw it, coach, because he didn't win it. I was wrong. But Xavier did throw it, all right? So, hey, all of these brothers ain't problematic. Damn. But anyway, I have no idea why someone in Kylan's position would even admit this to Tiffany. This was a gigantic choke of a move, and it should tell Tiffany that Kylan was trying to keep SB safe this week by winning HOH, and he is a bit sneaky. So here's a statement I made that I will own as wrong. Kylan was not down for the 6 to the level Xavier was on Thursday night. Xavier threw the comp and threw up the peace sign while doing it. I mean, listen, the man got the first question wrong, and he was like, I bet, deuces. You know what I mean? I'm finna hit the showers. I've been in solitary for a day. You know what I mean? It was nothing to him, right? We just wanted you to do the same thing, Kylan. It's a shame you didn't, bro. It's a shame. And I'd argue that is contributing to why no one wants to take you off the block so you can throw a sympathy vote towards SB this week. But we'll get there. Xavier threw the comp and threw up the peace sign while doing it to leave no suspicion, while Kylan stuck around for an extra question and exposed himself as being just as selfish as I've called out Tiffany for being towards DX. Listen, if I'm going to hold Tiffany accountable, I'm going to hold you accountable too, Kylan. What was that, man? Let her go. Let it go. Let it go. You feel to dig me, coach? Let Moaning Myrtle go. You feel me? Let her frolic in the lily flowers with Harry Potter in the cut. You know what I'm saying? And Harry and Hermione in them. It's going to be okay. Now, anyway, Tiffany fans going to love this portion of the rant because this is where she doesn't get held accountable, but a black man does. If I'm going to be the one going in on tippy toes, I got to go in on Kylan now, or else I'm no different from all the rest of these creators that only choose one side all season. I'm on the Sixers side. Wax on, wax off. All right? And no one comes before the 6. I would give Kylan some rope by saying he couldn't just go out on the first question and have SB buy that he tried his best. But at a certain point, you got to trust your team and do what's right and follow the plan with no funny business. Kylan got selfish here and lost his damn mind on the Operation Save Becky side of the game, too. This is a huge L for him. And I'm sure this gave Tiffany more reason to throw him up next to SB because he almost won another HOH to keep her safe. With Coin of Destiny, SB still could have left during a Kylan HOH, but it's the idea that he wouldn't trust the Cookout by making their jobs easier that doesn't sit right with me. For this and many other reasons, I understand Tiffany's motivations for wanting Kylan thrown up so he couldn't use Veto to save SB. If Kylan is HOH, the Secret HOH can never throw him up next to SB to ensure her departure. My only problem with Tiffany is in her unwillingness to sit on the block next to Claire, yet she is so adamant about every black man being on the block next to their +1. All I ask is that she steps up to take one for the team when it's her time comes to sit next to Claire like she wanted Kylan to do this week. I'm sure Tiffany not being willing to trust the 6 enough plays a role in Kylan following suit as well. But with that said, I'm in the accountability business, baby. So Kai has to hold his own nuts here. I just ask that Tiffany and her fans don't come with the excuses when it's time for her to sit next to Claire on that same block. And if Xavier happens to throw them up, I don't want to hear about him hating black women if Tiffany is justified in wanting Big D up next to Brittany and Kai next to SB. As long as this stays a two-way street, I see no problem with it. I just don't like the plausible deniability that be popping off based off what gender the black person is. Everybody has the right to play for their win conditions. But when you have a black alliance such as this that is trailblazing a path that may never be duplicated again, you can't afford to only think for self. Kylan no doubt is paranoid, and he should be. He has puppet mastered the 3 biggest evictions this season, arguably. He got out Frenchie, helped DX get out Christian, and helped SB get out DX. The key difference between he and Xavier, though, is that X knows when to go into cruise control, and X never uses selfish tactics. Xavier throwing this HOH, even though he would be a third nom, during a coup d'etat week, shows the difference between him and Kylan in a nutshell. And this just further proves why I think Kylan could lose in Final 2 to almost any member of Cookout. He was part of a lot of great moves, but it's how you treat people in your jury management. Kylan, I think you're losing the forest from the trees here. I'm trying to figure out what the end game here is, but the harder you fight to keep SB when she gotta go, the more you make yourself the one in Final Six that might get sent to the Shadow Realm. I'm just keeping it a bean, bro. You know? Remember how I mentioned this same thing with Tiffany and Azza? Well, Brittany hates Kylan for backdooring her, and DX hates Kai for letting SB backdoor him. Kylan is already playing on a vote deficit. I don't see how he earns these votes when he's already pissed off everybody in the current jury. Call me crazy, but this decision not to throw, compounded by him being smug enough to admit he didn't throw it, may have sealed his fate as having no chance to win the game. I'm sure he's on the bottom with the Cookout women as of now for this, and Alyssa is making inroads with Tiffany and Azza that SB never could on her best day. If I'm Xavier, why not drag Kyle in the final two if you have the chance? There is no way to Cookout rewards him before Xavier, and at this point, Kylan may think the only way he gets to the end is if him and Xavier boss up together after SB and Alyssa leave. Now, this is subject to change because a lot of manipulation is happening, but we'll get there. This one mistake from Kylan may have made him the most likely Final Six boot over Tiffany. He did Tiffany a huge favor, even though he really didn't. So with the added context, I can't take away from this HOH win achievement. Tiffany deserves credit, and Kylan deserves to be dragged. To get back to feeds, Tiffany is super happy her family can see her as HOH, but it's a damn shame this won't last for long because her HOH reign will only be for one day due to Coin of Destiny. Around 4:30 p.m., Tiffany makes Kylan believe she wants his advice on how to conduct her meetings. She believes this week will be easy as long as SB doesn't win the veto. And she was right. Tiffany tells Kylan he can nominate whoever after SB leaves and Kylan agrees. So at least Kai isn't fighting her on this, I give him that much. But he's also habitual line stepping. Not only that, he's already trying to campaign to become HOH next week as if he doesn't trust the Six to take out Claire. Tiffany even had to tell him a third HOH before Final 7 could be too much too soon. But if I know Tiffany, she's hedging hoping another woman wins HOH just to keep the control from the men within Cookout. Kylan realizes he may have to do it just because, like DX, these women ain't willing to take out Claire themselves, especially when they got this fake alliance popping off with her in the storage room. In my opinion, this is designed to make another juror bitter towards the black men by making it seem like the black women are the good cops giving Claire a fighting chance, while the black men are perceived as the bad cops being relentless towards getting her out until the end. This is the game I'd argue has always been played against the black man in society. The black man can't afford to nurture because he is 75% more likely to have someone at his head top over the black woman because of the social disadvantage, I guess, or advantage based off how you look at it. Sisters will always be able to paint themselves in a nicer light, forcing black men to have to be overly logical in order to win this game. Emotion for a black man is rarely an asset in the game, and this is why Kylan's emotions towards SB has him in dire straits. Tiffany, Hannah, and Azza can afford to simp for DX, but the black man can't afford to simp for anyone non-black, ever. This no doubt sets up the jury to where a black woman probably automatically wins next to a black man, unless the black man is Xavier. But even then, Xavier could lose to every woman if emotions are involved. Hence why Xavier gets so much hate on social media. People view him as the last obstacle to a black woman win. This is why people were willing to risk no one black winning just to see DX take out Xavier. Instead of rooting for whoever is best to win, people prey on Xavier's downfall, further perpetuating a Cookout gender war in Final 6. But even if Kylan may think Xavier's unbeatable, the women are becoming unbeatable too with the strategy they are implementing. And because these men got out so many men before jury, they made it easier for the women to use this strategy. It's funny. A male alliance is always disliked, but the idea of a women's alliance is always approved of. In this scenario, DX, Brittany, and Claire all vote in a block with whichever black women that don't make Final 2. If I'm Kylan, Big D, and Xavier, a black woman has to be taken out first in Final 6 because the jury is majority women already. So if the men use this strategy later as a result of the women using theirs now, I don't want these men called names for it if the women are championed for the same thing. So ironically, Kylan may drag Big D to the end, believing that's his only case to win, just to lose anyway. The triple eviction happening when it does will reveal a lot too. I believe a lot of pressure will be on Hannah to protect all three women, and I believe a lot of pressure will be on Kai and X to protect themselves. And with DX stealing Azza's recipe and giving it to Tiffany, Azza may have no advantage over Hannah or Tiffany down the stretch in these comps. And if you're Azza, knowing a woman probably wins next to any guy, shouldn't you want to backstab Hannah and Tiffany at some point? DX may have cost Azza the game by giving away her study tactics. It really feels like everything DX did on his way out was solely to help Hannah and Tiffany, and I'm not sure what helps those two ladies. Helps Azza reach the end. This is why I stress to everyone that DX leaving helped Azza's game and Hannah's game more than Tiffany's. But this fake alliance with Claire is also designed to make Hannah and Ozzy look worse if they vote her out over a guy. Understand, Tiffany will have the game reasoning to always throw a sympathy vote to Claire to keep her vote in jury. But will Claire be bitter towards Hannah and Ozzy if they don't provide the same to her? This is a delicate situation. And I get it's all fun and games when the black men are set up to be the bad cops. But what does Ozzy and Hannah do if Tiffany sets them up to be the bad cops too?
Uh-oh.
This is why when you give me an extra day, oh, I'm going to hit people with body shots. See, everybody on Twitter right now, they're talking like, oh, this was a masterclass of a week. I'm bringing up a lot of stuff that's going to play a role weeks to come. All right? A lot of people are on present time. I'm in the future right now. You feel it? Dig me, coach? This is Interstellar. You know what I mean? These are the questions I want y'all to think on to see this game at a deeper level heading into Final Six. On the surface, yeah, it's a gender battle. But through the depths of strategy, what you'll come to find is gender is just being weaponized by Tiffany because that's the only move she can use to get to the end without DX. In the coming weeks, Ozzy and Hannah will truly be tested based on how they decide to play behind Tiffany's back. Ozzy and Hannah should both want Big D in Final 3 before Tiffany, meaning something is going to hit the fan real soon. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't think this feminist gameplay will last the rest of the game. When people get closer to that money, they're going to realize the women are the biggest threats to win, causing a role reversal to happen. I just hope if this does happen, it won't get misconstrued, but knowing this community, it just might. Tiffany leaves Kylan briefly to tell Big D and Ozzy that she plans to say in her nomination speech that since SB sent her boy Derek's ex home, she can put on the heart-shaped glasses and don't let the door hit her when she leaves the house. Damn! Now, she didn't do this. We saw her speech today. She was very diplomatic. She was smart there. I was worried that if she did that, she would ruin her jury management. So I'm glad you didn't do it, Tiffany. Logic. I can't wait to see if she said this on Sunday's episode or not. Oz and Big D, of course, are excited about this speech, and both are sitting good. Kylan speaks to Tiffany. He says she is set up well for this week. He then mentions how the third nom also helps her game too, because it doesn't make her target too specific, and it hides the 6. Tiffany then says she would like for Xavier to stay on the block, and that's when my antenna shot up. Yerp! Why does Tiffany need 2 black men to stay on the block for 7 days to get 1 white woman out when she never sat on the block next to Claire? See, this is why y'all missed me.
Now let's not take the piss here.
I certainly
This
was.
is why
I
y'all
think you
missed
are.
me. See, her need to control everything again is creeping back into the forefront. She claims she wants that. So Alyssa votes to keep Xavier by voting out SB, and so Xavier doesn't have to vote out Alyssa. But if Tiffany was never going to throw up SB next to Alyssa, this excuse doesn't hold any weight because Xavier wouldn't be up next to Alyssa. Based on this rhetoric, it sounds like she trusts Xavier less than Kylan. She has to know there is a chance the secret HOH becomes Claire and throws up Big D over SB to screw over Xavier. Why must he stay on the block all week? As long as SB doesn't win Veto, why does anything else matter? Now, Tiffany would eventually come around to being okay with Xavier coming off. I'm not saying she was staunch in this the entire week, but I'm saying if this was her first thought on Thursday night, it says a lot. All right? If I'm going to hold Kai accountable for being selfish and people enjoy that, they should also enjoy this. When it's time for Tiffany to sit on that block, we don't want to hear the excuses or reasons why she can't do it if she wants 2 black men on the block for 7 days. It's only right. Otherwise, she has no right to be mad at Kylan for not throwing comps because he's justified in not trusting her if she don't trust them enough to be a nominee. So Xavier throws an HOH to be a third nom, and she wants him to sit there all week, but she doesn't expect anyone to grow suspicious of such a huge target staying over SB? Now, even if SB has a high profile from taking out DX, the jury should still view X as the bigger threat. If they were to see X survive a week next to SB and Kai on a Thursday night, it would just further make X look like the best player of the season. Now, this is where a lot of Tiffany fans will argue, well, Hannah winning Veto and taking Xavier off does the same thing. Okay, I could meet you halfway there. But I just think leaving that man on the block, it just makes him look like that dude. You know what I'm saying? At least you can talk your way into, okay, well, Hannah's taking off Xavier because he did get Brent out who was harassing her. You know? Oh, well, Xavier did talk Christian, SB, and Alyssa into taking out Whitney over Hannah that week when he could have threw up Ozzy next to Hannah. So you can talk your way into reasons why Hannah does owe Xavier, and she does. You know? Now, I think they're pretty much solid and even now. Okay, the connection was tweaking. I think they're pretty much solid and even now after she uses the veto on him tomorrow. But the way people are acting like Hannah is Xavier's puppet for taking him off, like, yo, Like, y'all say y'all want black men to step up for y'all. Y'all say y'all want black men to cater to the black woman, to treat her with respect. Xavier's been doing this for his little sis the entire game. And it's like, little sis, don't do that for big bro. Treat him like crap. It's like, what? Like, aren't you just further pushing Xavier away from black women with that thought process? Like, I want people to understand, to a certain extent, you create these type of people with how you just dismiss them at every turn. Even when they're on code, they're not on code enough, or at least Xavier, you know. But once again, he's disliked for his outside of the game preferences, not for his gameplay. For Kai to survive next to SB makes sense, but if I was in that house, I would be asking, why did Tiffany act like she wanted Xavier to win Veto last week to come off, but now she doesn't? Is it simply because she's HOH? But if Xavier comes off, she doesn't have to replace him with anyone. This tells me Tiffany didn't fully know the rules yet of the Coin of Destiny, because she was setting these brothers up for a worst-case scenario where Claire could have ruined the cookout if the twist was rigged as predicted. Tiffany admits she has wanted SB out for a while, and she has been set on it. She says she wants the black men to assess all the options. Tiffany knows SB believes in the jackpot, but Kylan tells her SB expects to go up because DX told SB she would be targeted. Tiffany finally admits DX leaving was a strategic move, but now she feels the game is uneven. She plans to break up the four by guaranteeing SB or Alyssa goes home. Kylan doesn't go against the plan. He says it makes sense because the four are only players left. Well, he didn't go against the plan after the HOH comp was over. Let me be careful there. He says it makes sense because the four are the only players left that have won every comp so far in the house besides Tiffany now. Kai then proceeds to tell Tiffany that Claire told him she is after Xavier and Big D the most. Once again, I think Claire is more after Kylan than Big D, but she can't tell Kylan that. Claire is after Kylan and Xavier the most, but right now she has a beef with SB over getting out her man DX that she can't put on hold. This makes Kylan feel better about Claire because Tiffany partially lies to him by saying Claire wants SB and Alyssa out more than the black men. She said this to make Kylan more okay with wasting his HOH targeting Alyssa before Claire. Pay attention. This is elite manipulative gameplay here from Tiffany because she is making Kylan feel like he is in a better position than Xavier when he isn't. And she also is trying to make him give Claire another free ride of a week so she can be the last pawn left. Kai has completely missed it here because he should be smart enough to realize if Claire is mad at SB, she is mad at him just the same because he let her take out DX. DX being taken out gave Claire a 0% chance of winning the game without a bunch of production help. This is why I'm still worried about how this twist could play out. Kylan and Tiffany agree this is the greatest alliance of 6 of all time because no alliance has ever made it this far legitimately. They agree DX's campaign didn't work because he didn't know the real sides of the house. They also stress how nobody will trust black people anymore if six of them are on a future season. Tiffany then says some stuff her fans need to hear because she at least is acknowledging her poor gameplay since week 5. Tiffany says her and Kylan will be on the bottom in Final 6. Oh, she's aware, though. I give her that credit. Kylan tells Tiffany only Big D is coming for him then. Kylan wanted there to be an agreement where whoever takes the last shot at the final pawn in Final 7 is given a free week of safety in Final 6, but it seems like people would agree to that deal. But it seems like nobody agreed to that deal. So this tells me nobody will want to be Final 7 HOH. And when you add how the triple occurs then, Final 7 HOH might be an even worse HOH to win than the one Tiffany just won that only lasted a day. This also tells me Kylan is pushing for this because he knows if Claire or Alyssa is the final pawn, Kai or Big D are forced to take one of them out if Big D doesn't do it because the women want Alyssa and Claire thinking they are having feminist slumber parties. This is why I don't see a woman trying to win Final 7 HOH out of fear for Final 6. So this may just be the one HOH nobody except Big D wants to win because nobody takes Big D out first in Final 6. This is why Tiffany has been so fixated on Claire outlasting Alyssa and SB. She wants a built-in excuse for every woman to throw Final 7 HOH. Understand, if Claire makes Final 7, all the women throw it at HOH. Now it's 2 men versus 3 women in Final 6 for the HOH. Advantage women. So the battle of genders will truly come down to Alyssa outlasting Claire helps the men have 3 versus 2 in Final 6. Claire outlasting Alyssa helps the women have a 3 versus 2 advantage in Final 6. See, I'm ahead of the game, y'all. I'm telling y'all that real stuff. None of them feelings over there. I'm giving y'all the truth. But if Claire leaves next week, every woman is forced to compete still versus Alyssa in Final 7. They want these men to be forced to compete versus Claire instead. That's the mental warfare happening this week. People are loyal to the six, but trying to force certain members into being vulnerable for the end game. For Xavier, Kylan, and Big D, Alyssa needs to make Final 7. For Tiffany and Hannah, Claire needs to make Final 7. When you add how production just rigged this week to Claire so she could have more TV time, right now you have to bet on Claire making Final 7. But if I'm Xavier and Kylan, Final 8 HOH might be the most important HOH because it allows you to also compete for the Final 6 HOH too. And it determines who the Final 7 target is. So in my opinion, next Thursday is going to be an all-out war for that HOH. Everybody, especially Kylan losing SB, it's going to be an infinity war for that one. Because everyone knows that's the one you want. No one wants that Final 7 one. No one. Azah is really the only player in a unique position where you can argue she can throw HOH if Alyssa or Claire make Final 7 because she is somewhat close to both now and she shouldn't want to lose a vote. As of Thursday, Azah is in the best position in the game. Kylan asked Tiffany to craft her speech in a way that makes sure Kylan is the pawn, and she says she will do that, but focus on duos before Kai leaves. Claire talks to Tiffany next and tells her that Alyssa is now throwing SB under the bus after DX apparently ruined her game away from feeds. How DX confirmed there was someone else in on the Christian backdoor. If you remember, Kylan and Tiffany played a huge role in that, but Claire doesn't need to know it all. All Claire needs is more reason to want SB out, and that's what Tiffany is giving her by blaming SB for all of it. This was a key move for the week because I think this also contributed into why Claire flopped so hard with the Secret HOH. You see what Tiffany did there? Great gameplay, Tiffany. Tiffany tells Claire they need to make weekly deals because they are on the bottom. They need to position themselves well in these one-on-ones for next week specifically. And when you add how important Final 8 HOH is, it makes perfect sense now to me that Hannah and Tiffany would prioritize not wanting to be HOH the rest of the week in favor of winning Final 8 HOH. Final 8 HOH on this coming Thursday will provide us with a hint of who will head into Final 6 with a massive advantage. Tiffany wants to frame certain questions with everyone. Tiffany admits Hannah is in the best position because she isn't in a duo right now. But last week, she lied to Hannah's face to make her think the position wasn't possible. This further shows she knew what she was doing when she underestimated Hannah and tried to get her to make bad moves on purpose against the Cookout last week. If Tiffany can see this now, she saw it last week too. She just didn't want Hannah to be in a better position than she is. All right? And right now, Hannah has more paths to the end, hence why Tiffany is pushing the feminist strategy. Excuse me. In fact, let's get some water real quick. Tiffany has a linear path to victory without DX, and even then it was already linear. Hannah has more options, which gives her more power even if she isn't the HOH this week. This is why it's a blessing in disguise Hannah didn't win this HOH, because it was a bad HOH to win. You know, Hannah now has to win as much as she can like Kylan and Xavier have had all season, while Big D, Hannah, and Azah can still pick and choose when they win. And now that Tiffany is HOH, even if it's only for one day, she at least now understands the hard job these brothers made look so easy before jury. Claire revealed to Tiffany that Azah is with the women, Big D is more so with the men. Claire also gives the advice to not trust anything Kai says. Tiffany wants to see where Big D's head is at with this coin of destiny. Claire is focused on what BB Buck's ex got last week, scared he could be Secret HOH. But Xavier went BB bankrupt to win the veto over you, Claire. See, this telling me Claire is not the sharpest tool in the tool shed. Like, what are you talking about? Oh, Xavier could get it. Claire, all right, your agenda against Xavier getting crazy, not Claire. Like, the dude has no money right now, huh? How he gonna get it, huh? Like, come on, dog. If Alyssa can't get it, how can my guy X get it? Like, you're not making sense. But anyway, this shows Claire isn't as sharp as she was earlier in the season, and losing DX took a lot out of her because she isn't even making sense with some of her anti-blackmail rhetoric. Xavier doesn't get twists rigged for him. Instead, twists are rigged against him like the roulette, but Claire stays obsessed. It also appears Azah was working against Big D, winning Coin of Destiny too, because she snitched on him and getting 100 BB bucks to Claire. I don't get why Azah is selling out Big D for Claire if she doesn't want Claire to get this rigged twist too. Did every black woman who liked DX turn this twist into a charity for Claire to have a moment this season? It feels like nobody had any ambition to have the twist within Cookout besides Big D. Even if Big D couldn't win the next HOH, they still didn't want him to have any shine before Becky. This is off-code gameplay to me. Now here's the thing. Now that we've seen the episode and we know that Big D threw it, I gotta take this back. I gotta revise it. But my point, this is how I felt in the moment. I gotta keep it real. All right. I hope these sisters did not make a deal with the devil to keep Claire to help Claire feel better. I saw this same deal get made last season when a certain black woman tap danced for white women all game to win AFP, only to blame black people for why she played so horrifically. I'm noticing a pattern here of black women being anti-black man for awards from production. That's disturbing to me. Tiffany says if Kylan comes off the block somehow, Alyssa will have to replace him. Claire then asks Tiffany if SB comes down, who is the shot? Who does she want out? Pay attention here, because this is Claire trying to get permission to get a black man out by replacing SB with Big D. Tiffany says it all depends on if Alyssa isn't coming for them or not, telling me Tiffany would turn on the black man if she felt she could really trust Alyssa. So before sisters try to make it out that Tiffany isn't hedging, she still is. She's just more careful now with HOH than before because she knows the spotlight is only on her. Tiffany has every reason to want Alyssa out as much as SB because Alyssa avoided the block with SB bashing Tiffany and Claire. Alyssa is good at this game. She knows how to placate to the person in power and avoid the smoke really well. I think a lot of this has to do with her not being romantic with Xavier. I believe if they had hit it off at all, she would have been taken out a while ago. But because Kylan and SB appear to be a stronger unit, SB got to go first, on top of targeting DX, of course. Claire tells Tiffany to ask everyone if they have heard her name being mentioned around the house to gain intel. Tiffany plans to do nothing longer than 10 to 15-minute one-on-ones and wants everyone to go on with their day. She says she will talk to X, then SB, then Alyssa before feeds cut, and they leave the room. Alyssa tells Azza she is pissed at SB for throwing her under the bus to Claire, Tiffany, and at DX. Alyssa is using this information well to flip the situation on SB, who threw her under the bus already. But I think a lot of this could be lies DX created to make it easier for SB to be thrown under the bus. Well played, DX. Tiffany would pull Azza for her one-on-one shortly after Azza speaks to Alyssa. First thing Tiffany says when her and Azza come in the choral room is, Alyssa looks scared as hell. Literally, Tiffany was eating like a Subway sandwich. She looked scared as hell. You could tell she was probing to figure out from Azza what Alyssa was whispering to her in the living room. This was strategic. Tiffany doesn't expound on what she was told Alyssa said about her because she knows it will just tell Azza that Azza and Big D were right to run up in that HOH room to keep Brittany from being cornered by Claire and Tiffany in the first place. A lot of this he say she say stuff is Tiffany's preference to keep her threat level from rising. Tiffany tells Azza she thought Alyssa would have targeted her as HOH. Azza covers for Alyssa by saying she would have targeted SB and Kai anyway. So this proves she did buy what DX said before. Azza also admits she convinced Alyssa to make these noms because they were the only way to keep Xavier safe as a third nom. All of this is factual because SB is more hated than anyone in the house. Tiffany is confused why Alyssa would ever throw up Claire if she wanted to save Xavier, believing the play every time should be SB, so it makes sense that she wouldn't trust Alyssa under these circumstances, because last week Alyssa and Xavier were in the HOH room immediately after DX got backdoored. I remember that. So Tiffany knows if Alyssa is still after Claire, she is also still after her, which is also true. Tiffany tells Azza that Alyssa declared she was after Tiffany for having too much influence, but that's what SB said about her, not Alyssa, hence why Tiffany doesn't want Azza spreading the lie. Tiffany then asks Azza if she has been noticing Alyssa following Tiffany around the house the past week. I personally didn't really notice this on feeds, but to be fair, I didn't really watch that much of feeds after all the women started coddling DX like a little kid. I stopped really watching, but I digress. Azza says she doesn't know if it's a white girl thing, but that's what she does. Tiffany then says that that's SB's thing too, so both sisters are exposing another strategy black women can't really play as easily as white women can. The walk in a room and say nothing strategy. In previous seasons, black people always stood out if they entered a room and didn't say anything. I remember Ramsey Soto specifically being targeted by Paul for this during BB19. Both ladies agree Alyssa could be looking for a friend because Christian is gone. Azza thinks this version of Alyssa is different compared to the one earlier in the game. Alyssa likes to kick it more with Jokers and Xavier over everyone else at this point. Azza and SB even threw her under the bus for that. Azza then recommends Kai and SB go on the block for the least amount of blood. Azza knows if Kai and Alyssa are nominated, that just gives SB the chance to be picked for Veto and take Kylan off, which leaves X, Alyssa, and a Cookout member to go up because Tiffany would never nom Claire. Technically, because of the secret HOH, it's more complicated than this, but it makes sense they would assume this. They would assume it's this simple at this time. Azza and Tiffany agree they can't wait to see SB hit the jury house right after Derek X. Both of them agree it's impressive how loyal Xavier has Alyssa to him. She listens and doesn't go rogue, which makes the job of the six a lot easier as a whole. Tiffany wants Alyssa to target Claire over her next week if she wins HOH. She hopes they can plant seeds this week for a contingency plan. She also is excited she would get credit for sending SB home, but with the secret HOH, there is still the chance her plans could get derailed. After Azza is Big D for his one-on-one. Big D congratulates Tiffany for winning. We saw that tonight. Tiffany admits to being on the bottom and dealing with the loss of DX. Tiffany stresses how she wanted to keep Claire safe as well. Big D tells her his noms would have been Claire and Kai. Then he would have used Coin of Destiny to swap Claire with SB. Big D makes Tiffany aware of the fact that SB currently trusts him, and he's using that to fool SB into thinking he will use Coin of Destiny to keep her safe when he really is doing it to get her out. He also reiterates Alyssa being on board with getting SB out as well. Tiffany says she wants Big D to play to win. Tiffany tells Big D the key is for the last pawn to not win HOH. Of course, Tiffany uses this moment to push for Claire to make Final 7 because Alyssa hasn't won a comp yet that wasn't thrown to her. Claire has production working for her to win comps. If I'm Big D, there's no way in hell, even if hell have no fury, that I keep Claire in this game longer than Alyssa. Alyssa never goes for Big D, but Claire always got his name in her mouth. It makes no logical sense for Big D to keep Claire for that week, especially if Tiffany won't make the deal with him for instant safety in Final 6 if he takes out Claire in Final 7. Then Big D attempts to bring up a scenario where Tiffany, Azza, or Hannah win HOH in Final 7 and Claire is there. But Tiffany instantly interrupts him and says that's ideal. But that ain't ideal, because y'all won't ruin a jury vote by getting Becky out yourself. Claire making Final 7 guarantees the black women outnumber the black men for Final 6 HOH 3-2. It also allows another jury member to be pro-women over men because a woman didn't take her out. This is why these brothers need to work it where Alyssa is the last one left. Big D is too smart to fall for this, in my opinion, and I think this is why Tiffany eventually didn't want him winning Secret HOH, because he has a mind of his own. Now, once again, this was my thoughts on Thursday. We see even Big D, to a certain extent, got down with Tiffany's demonstration, which is impressive because he don't trust her at all. But maybe he's doing that to make her think she can trust him in Final 6. This could be him playing her, too. It's funny how now all of a sudden for Tiffany's game, everyone should keep players around that can't win comps. But last week she was crying over DX because he could win any comp. She appears to be jealous of the position Hannah is in now because she isn't in a duo, but she refuses to be in a similar situation as soon as possible because she fears being taken out. Well, she fears Claire being taken out. She fears being taken out right after Alyssa, and she fears Claire being taken out before Alyssa. Think about it. If Alyssa is taken out in Final 7, it's most likely a woman doing it. So now the men outnumber the women 3-2 during the triple, and when you have production clearly helping women more than men, you can't afford to not play aggressive. And now Big D is seeing it isn't best for him or Azza to target Alyssa now, meaning all that pressure is loading up on Hannah, similar to how all the pressure to get DX out was loaded on Xavier. Now do you see why Xavier values Hannah so much and vice versa? Both are pretty much used as weapons, so others don't have to get as dirty. Why wouldn't Xavier and Hannah protect each other if nobody else in the 6 is really protecting them? Tiffany is pushing for Claire to last the longest, of course. It's obvious she doesn't want Xavier or Kylan to be able to compete for Final 6 HOH. Eventually, Big D gets Tiffany to see that next week is most likely a physical HOH. Meaning a guy will likely win, meaning Claire gotta go. And since these brothers don't want any funny business from that woman, from the women, I said that one, from the women, that also implies Tiffany gotta finally take one for the team and be nominated next to her. Tiffany is trying to avoid this as much as she can, but it's gonna happen eventually. And if she keeps making the argument that Claire can't win anything, she shouldn't be scared about being on the block next to her, because Claire can't come off by winning Veto, right? Next week, I expect the men to call a lot of Tiffany's bluffs to test her resolve. Big D says if the comp is mental, they will throw it, but if it's physical, they won't. Final 8 HOH is too important to be thrown, in my opinion. Then Tiffany says even further how selfish and hypocritical she is. Oh, okay. I was making sure I typed that right. Then Tiffany shows even further how selfish and hypocritical she is by saying if there is safety in the next HOH comp, she is going for it. This tells me she doesn't want to be on the block next to Claire, even though it would be her turn. Pay attention. And another reason why she wants to be safe, ladies and gentlemen, is because she wants to create an excuse for Alyssa to be on the block next to Claire so she can force a flip to get Alyssa out before Claire so they outnumber the men 3-2 in Final 6. Understand, all right? Everybody mad at Kylan for not throwing that HOH to allow SB to be targeted by Tiffany. But what does it say about Tiffany if she immediately goes for some safety knowing damn well she is the pawn that should be next to Claire on the block? It says she's just like Kylan. But once again, this is contingent on if it happens, right? This is a qualifier. Tiffany has not made this mistake concrete yet. Kai has. So for now, Kai is the one who I'm holding accountable. I'm just saying, if out of nowhere comes this random safety and it's a slip and slide, and then Tiffany goes straight for that, we got to look at her sideways a bit. Because at the end of the day, you should be going for the HOH too, right? You shouldn't be the only one prioritizing your safety. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? So, this tells me she doesn't want to be on the block next to Claire because she wants to force a flip to blindside the men by sending Alyssa home during an HOH week where Claire should go. So are you following her agenda? She hasn't learned from her mistakes because she keeps trying to be the boss of every week. Let's get through this one first and reassess the rest later. The fact she would even run to the fact that she would even run to safety tells me she doesn't trust Cookout enough. Keep in mind, at this point, she can't play for next HOH anyway. Now, this was before the Secret HOH took over and she could play for the next one, but I digress. So the fact that she is plotting this hard on being safe should give off red flags to Big D. He even had to remind her she isn't playing next week and she laughed it off. Exposed. Tiffany says next week they need to plant seeds of doubt in Alyssa towards Claire. By the way, that also tells me Tiffany had the plan to throw it to Claire as early as Thursday night because she was already talking about playing in the next HOH for safety. If you're the current HOH and you can compete for Coin of Destiny, why are you already talking as if you won't be HOH anymore for the rest of the week? It tells me she always knew what she wanted to do. Tiffany says next week they need to plant seeds of doubt in Alyssa towards Claire. Big D says Tiffany and Hannah need to do the same with Claire towards Alyssa. Tiffany asks Big D to leave the room and act nervous, but she keeps trying to force Big D to trust her in Final Six by saying it over and over. This approach is not working. Tiffany needs to treat Big D as good as she treated DX all game if she wants him to not be after her. Tiffany talks to Cams after Big D leaves and laughs about how paranoid Big D always is about going up. She says he won't be going up, though. Well, unless SB wins Veto. Then she plans to throw him up over Alyssa, which was an L in itself, but we're going to keep moving. Then Alyssa comes in for her one-on-one. Tiffany starts the game talk. Alyssa believes Xavier trusts SB. Tiffany says she doesn't think it's trust. She just thinks it's loyalty from the team twist. Alyssa, so she did cover for X there. That's respect. Alyssa then goes in on why she doesn't trust SB at all. She then explains how the roulette situation was all planned by SB, but now SB is acting like Alyssa did it all on her own. Alyssa believes SB is trying to get everyone else to target Alyssa so SB can have X and Kai all to herself. Now, live feed fans know SB doesn't trust Xavier as far as she can throw him either, so Alyssa's read isn't completely accurate, but honestly, her honesty kept her safe this week, just like it kept Azza safe last week. Alyssa admitted they have been very distant in game talk since Christian left. Tiffany agrees to it, but doesn't admit that that was her choice to do. Alyssa asks Alyssa. Alyssa asks Tiffany. No, Tiffany asks Alyssa what she would do if she won Veto. Alyssa says she would take X off. Alyssa is making it very clear she would never keep SB this week because she also played a role in what happened to Christian. This is also why Big D and Azza believe they can push Alyssa to target Claire next week. When Alyssa asks for what SB said about her regarding targeting Tiffany, Tiffany remains vague to keep leverage and keep Alyssa honest the rest of the week. Tiffany says in order for the women to go further, SB has to go now. About 10 minutes later, Alyssa makes sure to remind Tiffany of how much SB was after Hannah during week 4 before leaving the coral room. In my opinion, this was very savvy for Alyssa to do. Make sure they don't forget how they felt that week. Xavier is up next. First, they hug, and X congratulates Tiffany for stepping up to do what needs to be done. Tiffany tells Xavier about her conversation with Alyssa. She stresses her paranoia over Alyssa regarding information she was told through DX and Claire from SB. She asks Xavier his thoughts, so X then asks Tiffany what she prefers, backdoor SB or make her an initial nom. Tiffany says a new target hasn't surfaced for her besides SB, so initial noms it is. Tiffany confirms Kylan and SB will go up, but she prefers X winning Veto to take himself off now. She also says she doesn't mind if Xavier throws Veto to Alyssa. Kylan can also win it, but it's anybody but SB at this point. Tiffany laughs about Big D being scared about going up. She says the only way Alyssa goes up is if Kylan wins Veto. Then she says if Kylan comes off, she is more willing to throw a Big D than Alyssa because she doesn't want to make an enemy out of Alyssa. She walked back everything she just said very fast, which now justifies why Big D is nervous this week. And this goes back to what I said in the last rant, doesn't it? If Tiffany were to throw a Big D for any reason, she is just giving him incentive to win the twist and take out Claire with it. Based on what Tiffany is saying, she expected to have a full week as HOH just with an invisible twist. She never really thought she would have no influence after Veto. Tiffany admits she knows she has to sit next to Claire, but says she doesn't want to touch the block. Xavier then says he wanted the same thing, but the BB gods forced him on the block, then forced him on it again to come off the block. This is when Tiffany said, "I'm not you," proving to me even she knows Xavier is the superior player. Tiffany is essentially doing what X and Kai did to get out Bryn and Frenchie. She is putting up one target next to a pawn to limit the recoil damage. I see no problem with this. I just don't like the idea that she would throw a Big D before Alyssa. Imagine if Big D said he would throw up Tiffany before Claire. He would be hated for it. This is just yet another double standard, but let's continue. Tiffany says she wants Xavier's influence to push Alyssa in Claire's direction. Xavier will have no problem doing that because he wants Claire gone. Xavier then asks Tiffany if Claire has said his name, and she lies to his face saying Claire loves him. So she wants X to push Alyssa to target Claire, but she wants Claire to outlast Alyssa because Claire wants a black man out. Do you see the off-code gameplay here? Social media was all butterflies and lily flowers on Thursday, and nobody really held Tiffany accountable for lying to X's face like this. But these same fans act like X is more loyal to Alyssa than the Six to justify what Tiffany keeps doing from week to week. I've never seen someone win such a small amount of comps and fear the block so much. Like, you're not that big of a threat than you think. Now, in Final Six you are, but not now. She refuses to lose her person before Alyssa, and she doesn't want to throw Alyssa up over a Cookout member, all while a secret HOH looms over our heads. She's making everyone else in the Cookout's job more complicated because she fears trusting them 100%, but her fans act like she is the most woke because she has taken out SB, who did the Cookout a massive favor by getting DX out so the Six didn't have to. Instead of Cookout fans being happy with SB helping us with the mission, they are mad at her because she guaranteed a black winner. Pay attention. Tiffany gives out orders she won't even follow through with willingly without a fight. Then she acts like you are selfish if you don't bend the knee to the new plan. Big D gave her solid information and convinced her he had Alyssa under control, but she still would rather him touching the block over Alyssa out of fear. This mentality won't bode well for her in Final Six because her and Azza are the only two Cookout members to not touch the block. It behooves Azza 100% to make sure Tiffany touches the block before her. And if she really believed in this feminist strategy she's pushing, she would never admit to being on the bottom of the Six. So it tells me she is fearful of more than just touching the block next week. Xavier is too good of a player to even buy these lies, but it's the idea that she would make it seem like she is doing X a favor by keeping Alyssa off the block while trying to backstab X long term by helping Claire outlast Alyssa to target Xavier that's anti-black. Be straight up with the man. This is how Hannah gained all his trust. All this slick stuff she trying just makes him trust her less. Xavier, of course, plays this off well. He also reiterates how he wanted the first woman HOH to be black, and he's disappointed in Kylan for not throwing the comp to Azza 2 weeks ago. Great point. Tiffany then uses the information Kylan should have never told her about not throwing the HOH to further bury Kylan to Xavier. Xavier says that's what he gets, and now he wants to beat him in the veto. So you see how Tiffany is getting these two dudes to kind of like resent each other slowly but surely. Pay attention. Now Tiffany is beginning to try to pit these black men against each other, but for every black man's game, it makes no sense to take each other out first in Final Six. X would leave the coral room. Tiffany thought her one-on-ones were done and forgot about SB, her target. SB has to know something isn't right because most people save their target for last or make them the first one they talk to. Tiffany starts off asking SB for advice on HOH just to get her talking. She asks SB if she can play for Secret HOH, but SB knows it's unlikely. Tiffany asks who SB would want thrown up. SB wisely says no names. Tiffany asks if anyone has said her name lately. SB says Big D. Then SB brings up Baby D's pitch. How he said everyone but Alyssa, Kylan, and X would nom SB next to Kylan this week. Tiffany breaks down why she has to throw up SB by saying they have won too many comps among their four. She says it seems like the strongest pairs are targeting the weakest pairs, so the only chance they have is to throw up two of them next to Xavier. Tiffany claims to want a week where her and Claire aren't still being targeted, so she has to take someone out between the two duos. Losing DX made her question her place in this game, further vindicating my take that her game lacks bite to it without him. She says if she does throw up her and Kylan, it's because she doesn't want to backdoor anyone. SB tries to defend her game by throwing Xavier and Alyssa under the bus for being too close to jokers. She isn't lying. Xavier has done such great work. Big D and Azza don't even hate Alyssa anymore. I think Azza still don't really like her, but she likes her enough right now to tolerate her. SB also mentions how Kylan wanted to repair the relationship with Claire after using Veto on her, but it hasn't worked. What does SB expect, though? They both just backdoored DX and made sure Claire was next to him because she was the only non-black pawn that stayed over DX. There was no way for Kylan to earn that trust back. Tiffany says she appreciates SB and Kyla not throwing her up, but she also mentions how throwing up DX and Claire jeopardized her game by cutting off her legs. We saw that tonight as well. Tiffany wants to know how she can trust SB if she is more loyal to Kylan over the jackpot. SB says she is shocked. She considered that move cutting off her legs. This is where Tiffany got too emotional in her explanation. If jackpot is real to SB, then Tiffany's legs aren't cut off at all in the game to SB. SB did that to get closer to both women, but it backfired because Tiffany's only legit shot at making the end involved DX being her savior. She is mad SB took her off easy mode and put her in a game where she must prove she is as great as her fans claim. That's the real beef here between them if you peep game. SB made Tiffany have to win this HOH and stop throwing comps. SB did us all a favor because now the cookout is more balanced. Tiff also said DX would have never came for her, but they had no alliance. That means you had an alliance. She also said she wanted DX to go after bigger targets than SB, who SB is close to. This exposes Tiffany's game was anti-black men when DX was around. Further showing I was never wrong in my analysis to hold her accountable because she admitted it to SB's face. Tiffany literally owned up to everything I've been saying. She even admits she's still a little emotional over the eviction. Tiffany wouldn't have even been that hurt if Claire left. So how is she even believed when she plays this feminist godmother role? Tiffany claims she doesn't get why SB took that shot. I think it makes perfect sense. Who else was SB supposed to target then? The Jokers? That just proves Tiffany wanted DX to stay over more black people. You see my point here? Tiffany won't touch the block, but then she takes it personally if you give her a week off the block and target the biggest threat in the house. For a logical thinker like SB, this has to be confusing on the surface level, because she doesn't know about the cookout, right? Tiffany then says there are no guys fighting for her in this game, but whose fault is that? She let DX backdoor the other guy she had in her pocket. She didn't hold a grudge with DX for doing that, but SB is wrong for doing this? This is Tiffany hiding her game reasoning wisely from SB and using an excuse she knows that comes off as more logical, less emotional. So this is proof Tiffany can be logical over emotional, but she chooses not to be the majority of the time. SB then clocks Tiffany by mentioning how last week she said her and Claire were alone and had no men. But now she is using the fact that she had a man in her corner to justify targeting SB now. SB caught Tiffany's hands in the cookie jar here. Pay attention. You messed up here, Tiffany. This is where you lost SB's vote, in my opinion. Because your excuse didn't hold up. This happened around 7:11 p.m. Y'all can check it out yourselves. Tiffany had no good response to that. That tells me she knew she messed up. Tiffany is very lucky she has the cookout. She makes mistakes that only someone backed by a juggernaut alliance can get away with. Then SB makes more logical sense by saying, hey, I kept your girl Hannah, who you defended during week 4, off the block and kept you off the block so Claire could stay, you know? The ally Tiffany is saying was closer to her than DX, but she isn't happy at all about still being here? Yeah, that ally. I ain't gonna stunt. SB exposed Tiffany in this conversation, but most of it did not make this episode tonight because production knows, because production wants SB to go, so they're not gonna give her any good moments. Let's keep it real. You know, that's more of that, but now I see why the twist was rigged away from Big D. Well, Big D threw it, but this was my thought process while watching feeds. Because Tiffany set her up for a clapback if SB had survived this week and Claire left. I'm seeing stuff nobody is even mentioning on the internet from this one conversation. That tells me people don't even care about SB to the point where even if she states facts, they just ignore it because she took out their golden boy DX. SB drives the point home that her and Kai aren't going after Claire and Tiffany, but she is falling on deaf ears. The great point she brought up, Tiffany didn't answer clearly. So SB has to know she is the real target. SB then goes for one last Hail Mary by saying she would never take Kylan with her to final 2 because women always lose to men who carry them to the end. Because of this black alliance, Tiffany preferred that exact scenario with DX, hence why this sounded like a sneak diss from SB more than anything. Telling Tiffany she wouldn't have won if DX had stayed. SB low-key throwing shots. Y'all gotta pay attention. Y'all gotta pay attention. SB slick with her shade. Hey, this her last week. I'm gonna give her a little bit of spotlight because the Shadow Realm awaits. Now, SB leaves and Hannah is the final one-on-one of the night. Tiffany first thanks Hannah for helping her study. Hannah says Tiffany or Ozza needed to win this. Hannah says she doesn't know if X and Kai threw it. Tiffany makes sure to tell the other logical mastermind within Cookout that Kylan didn't throw HOH. Then when Hannah asks if Xavier threw it, Tiffany says he didn't throw it because he didn't know the answers. The man did this on the first question, telling me he knew the right answer because he knew the wrong one to pick. But now he didn't throw it because he was in solitary. They can't even get a guy credit for being on code no more. They can't even give him credit no more. Come on, dog. Come on, dog. Come on. Why does Tiffany refuse to give black men credit when they do what she wants? This proves you can't win with her, so you might as well be as selfish as her. You know what I mean? They laugh about DX's speech, then talk about SB. Hannah pretty much unloads a lot of information about the roulette comp from last week that tricked DX into not playing. Hannah thinks SB wanted Alyssa and Hannah at odds with each other. Tiffany and Hannah both agree SB is very good at lying. Then Tiffany tells Hannah what she told SB, how SB threw everyone she could under that magic school bus. Eventually, the topic will get back to DX, and Hannah will begin to cry about how they couldn't keep him. This was a sad part of feeds. Some DX fans would go on social media and be mad at Hannah, saying these are crocodile tears. But it's so obvious Hannah is taking this seriously to heart. The only fake tears I've seen regarding DX came from Claire to get handed a rigged twist. Let's talk about it tonight. Let's talk about it tonight, coach. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on. If people want to talk about fake tears, let's talk about Claire here. She cried over DX, the guy she pining over. But when it's time to do what DX would have did with that twist, she was like, you know what? I'm straight. I'm Reek. Let's talk about it, dog. Come on, man. Y'all is not finna come for Hannah and give Claire all of these training wheels. You feel it, dig me? No, I'm not going. I got your back. I got your back, coach. All right? The Huntress ain't going. Now, around 8:42 p.m., ladies and gentlemen, Kylan is trying to keep SB in a good state of mind before noms. He is doing the job each Cookout member will have to do with their person. You know, this week has really feel like it's a headache for this guy. SB says she believes she did her best to avoid the block, and the rest is out of her hands. Tiffany gets her HOH room around 10 p.m. Everyone is happy for her. Hannah, Ozzy, and Claire are going in on SB in this room, talking about where she went wrong with Big D blasting music by the bed. He was probably blasting Beyonce. They believe SB taking out DX was her being selfish to get out a big target. They say SB taking out DX was like a pawn taking out a queen. Oh, damn, bruh. Was that necessary, coach? Damn. You know, it's like she on the verge of getting up and they just kicked her. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Dang. Man. As this is happening, Alyssa asks Xavier what to do if SB tries to talk game. Xavier says he will say good luck in the veto and not talk game at all since she threw them under the bus. Tiffany, Hannah, and Claire would sleep in the HOH room together. Tiffany tells Hannah and Claire that SB are as good as Brent at convincing people to work with him. They all agree it's why she must go. Now let's get to Friday feeds, ladies and gentlemen. Hannah, Tiffany, and Claire were the ones who got 100 BB bucks, and that's all that really matters because the rest couldn't play for Coin of Destiny anyway. So that's all the notes I took towards that. Friday morning around 7 a.m., Claire talks to Cams alone after sleeping with Hannah and Tiffany. She is hoping this power will be hers. She wants to position herself well for next week by making this week a rebuild week for her game. Claire also knows she's in trouble with Kylan if she targets him because she said she was after Big D instead. For Xavier fans, we happy though because she at least ain't after him before Kylan as of now. Claire says she is happy for Tiffany. She hopes Tiffany is making some deals, but Tiffany so far hasn't done anything because the week is self-explanatory. Claire admits SB leaving isn't the best case scenario, but with the ball already being in motion, Claire will do what Hannah and Tiffany wants. I gotta give Tiffany credit where it's due here. She has Claire under mind control here. DX would never do what Tiffany wanted here, but Claire has to because she doesn't think she can win comps like DX can. She don't want that smoke. Claire believes she could pull Ozzy to her side, but she is worried she is too close to Xavier based off a week ago when Ozzy said she would use the veto on X. Claire believes she is Tiffany Steve Moses. They can yoke her towards the end to win the game. Let's have a quick laugh real quick at Claire for being completely in the dark. You fool. You feel it, dig me, coach? But I'm glad you this confident. That's why you flopped the twist. Now, Friday morning around 7 a.m., again, Tiffany tells Kylan her speech in the HOH bathroom. She won't mention DX in her speech and has revised it to sound more logical, less personal. Smart, Tiffany, because I was very worried you were going to be petty and hurt your jury management. It's good to see your head is in the game still. Kylan likes the speech because it doesn't clarify a target necessarily, which is important because they need SB to feel like Kylan could be the target even if he isn't. Tiffany then says the game is a lot harder than she thought, especially as HOH. Tiffany ends up being called to the DR around 8 a.m. to do nominations in her HOH robe. Fees return around 9 a.m. SB goes to talk to Tiffany in the HOH room. We saw that during tonight's episode as well. Feeds kept cutting, so we didn't really see the entire convo. But Tiffany tries super hard to fool SB into thinking she doesn't want a woman to go home this week. She basically laid it out there that Kylan is the target because he's been very questionable to get SB to not compete for Veto. After SB leaves, Tiffany says she doesn't care about lying so much to SB. Tiffany says there can only be one queen with a little devil in her, and that's herself. So now He'll Have No Fury has an even deeper meaning to it. If SB has to believe she isn't the target, she has to believe it. Tiffany hopes SB respects the gameplay and still votes for her to win, but I doubt SB will reward Tiffany over anyone. Tiffany believes DX's bracelet is good luck, and she hopes it continues to help her in this game. She also hopes nobody comes for her after taking SB out, but Kylan could. You never know. Fees were cut again for High Roller Room around 9:30 a.m. Fees don't really return for 7 hours. When they do return, we see SB crying to Kylan about the secret HOH keeping noms the same. I mean, listen, y'all, if y'all want some entertainment, this was some of the funniest stuff I've seen. So if this is like 7 hours, this is like around like 5 something. Like 5:30-ish kind of. Probably like 5:20. SB says she would be fine with this if people were looking at this game objectively and logically, but they aren't. It's all emotional from her vantage point. Unless there is some other alliance she doesn't know of, she doesn't get why it makes any sense to go for her here. Well, there is this secret alliance, coach, and you got. And of all people to assist the Cookout in this mission, it's Claire. The girl production rigged a twist to hurt the same alliance, but even she didn't want no smoke after the last 2 weeks of being on the block. That's why I put that picture up in the thumbnail of Claire with the afro wig, because she trying to be pro-black this week. You really dig me? Cookout got these +1s fighting in the Hunger Games in the Infinity War just to finish in 7th place. That's how you know they're iconic. For real, though. Kylan wants SB focused on winning this veto because that's the only way she staves off the Shadow Realm. SB looked crazy here in these streets. But to be fair, I would be mad too if a secret HOH just did the same thing Tiffany did. I mean, SB has to know Big D didn't win it, so it tells me she is this defeated because she knows all of Jackpot is now against her for taking out DX, meaning she isn't invited to the feminist lunch table anymore. She gotta take her lunch tray to jury, coach. I'm getting Breaking Bad vibes off SB right now. I'm talking The Ring with the girl who came out the TV screen. That's the energy she giving off on Friday, yo. You know, even the cameraman zoomed in on her, trying to clown her. You feel it, dig me? Hello, darkness, my old friend. You feel it, dig me? She looked like, listen, she looked like she was contemplating some things. That's all I'm going to say. She was contemplating some things. As she throws her pity party, Xavier and Big D are talking about how the Cookout is the best alliance ever. Oh, man, this is my favorite channel. You know what I'm saying? I'm over here watching like, yeah, this is much better than that crying over there. You know what I mean? But they had, it's the best alliance ever because nobody knows their existence. They have faced adversity. They were just perfectly scattered across the house to control so many different archetypes at once. I really like this conversation between both brothers around 5:30 p.m. Even Big D admits how positive it is to see black people on the same page for once and getting over their differences for a common goal. Xavier even says if he doesn't make Final 2 but the 6 makes Final 6, he will believe he won to some capacity for guaranteeing a black winner. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Now, if I know Xavier, he going for that W. But that's what it's all about, though. Right? Enjoy the journey, man. Because when it's over, man. You know? And trust me, as a fan watching this, I don't want this to end no time soon. Because I know when it's over, it's now in the time capsule. It will never happen again. You know? So that's why I don't want them to rush the technique. Slow down. Don't even do the triple eviction. Span this out 3 more weeks. Do something. Because I'm enjoying this. But I get it. Y'all got time constraints and stuff. Y'all got scheduling issues and stuff like that. I ain't being crazy with it. I'm just saying, I don't want this to end. You know? I've been waiting 20 years for this, bruh. This is, listen. Like, man, I'm in heaven watching a season like this, bruh. But anyway. Content like this I thought I would never see on this show, so I won't take it for granted, and that's why I'm documenting it. Around 6 p.m., Hannah and Xavier have Xavier have a wholesome moment together. This is actually a picture in the thumbnail as well. Both can't have what they want, so they bond over it. Hannah can't have DX for the 6. Xavier can't have Alyssa for the 6. They find solace in discussing these things among themselves. Both of them clown SB for not throwing up Hannah, and they talk about how they still don't know how they got Christian to take out Whitney. This was a dope conversation, but it's key for this rant because it reminds people Xavier has done work for Hannah more. It reminds people Xavier has done more work for Hannah than anyone in the six in this game, even more than Tiffany. He's done more, tangibly. He took out Brent, who was harassing her. He got 3 Kings members to be okay with taking out Whitney, who was super close to 2 out of those 3. Xavier's put action before his words, and I think this is why Hannah respects him so much in the game. They even laugh about how Whitney was applying lotion to this same man who sent her home the same week. These two, honestly, are who I want to win the game the most within the 6 by a large margin. The Big Brother live feeds were down for a long time on Friday, but when the feeds were turned back on, fans were shocked to see Tiffany already being evicted from her HOH room upstairs in less than a day after becoming HOH. A lot of sisters was pissed off about this. They felt like this was Chima. This was BB11 Chima all over again. But I don't really think it's that deep. At the end of the day, we all knew the Queen of Destiny was coming. Someone had to win it. And it would have been some woman of color getting her HO, having to move back down in a day, because it was between Hannah, Tiffany, and Alyssa. So I don't really take it personally in that light, because we knew of this twist weeks ahead of time. Now, if they would have bamboozled us with this twist out of nowhere, then you all would have, without a doubt, a point. But I think it's a bit of a reach. It was immediately obvious that the Coin of Destiny had been used. Many black fans took on social media to let their voice be heard over how this reminds them of what happened to Chima, when another non-black player was handed coup d'etat to flip the game on its head. Technotronics. And right on cue, just like how Jeff and Jordan were production pets who got some special treatment, Claire gets more privileges after DX is sent to the Shadow Realm with a crypto envelope twist designed to rig the Coin of Destiny of power to her over Big D. Now, of course, we know Big D threw it, but once again, this is in the notes, and this is how I felt. Hannah and Tiffany decided to throw this power to Claire strategically to get the same outcome, while allowing both Hannah and Tiffany to play for HOH next week over Claire. Great gameplay here. The rules suggest the winner of Coin of Destiny must throw the following HOH comp as well. If Claire gets first place, second place wins the HOH. My problem with Claire getting this twist is that she was allowed to have the 2 strongest twists of the season, and she hasn't played anywhere near good enough to deserve both. I mean, I think she was playing good enough to deserve one, maybe, not both. I get that she still did what the Cookout wanted, so it's not really that big of a deal, but it's the principle of the matter. I've never seen a black player on the bottom be handed a twist like this. I've never seen Deus Ex Machina envelopes introduced into the game to stop an alliance from steamrolling. In fact, it's the contrary. If you really look back on it, dominant white alliances always got the overpowered twists. Lifeguard Jesus was handed an app that made him unbeatable for half the game, and he got that after he backdoored Swaggy. If you remember, Tyler was given a cloud power app that allowed him to essentially save himself at any point for 8 weeks of the game. That's 2 months. The game is only 3 months long. You feel what I'm saying? These twists always go to specific people who look a certain way. That's my point here. Man. So that last 8 weeks, but Tiffany's HOH lasted only 1 day. Claire gets 2 weeks of safety for winning 1 comp in 4 weeks. Then she gets the best twist of the season and does nothing with it to waste all the money grifted for her with her white girl crying technique from a week ago. While some people are confused as to whether Sasquatch, Bigfoot, or UFOs exist, I'm just confused if Claire is still trying to even win this game. Can we keep it a bean? Can we keep it a bean? That's what I'm confused about. You know what I mean? For real, she's an unidentified bad player. Her move this week had no ambition behind it. She's the boxer who took too many shots in their career that just wants to hold until the end of the fight at this point. Production has to feel like Boo Boo the Fool for rigging this to her, just for this week to go as planned anyway. Was it that important to have 1 non-black HOH for Paramount Plus? I'm pretty sure DX fans are even more mad now than before because Claire just trolled their entire fan base something serious. Now let's get into Saturday's feeds. The Veto picks were SB, Kylan, Xavier, Alyssa, Claire, and Hannah. How convenient, huh? Claire's the shadow HOH and she happens to get picked for the Veto in the bag, you know? Does feel like a lot of things are just going her way. Does she have DX's bracelet on? I don't know. I gotta keep it real. Even though Claire did what Tiffany wanted with initial noms, I was still skeptical about what Claire would do if SB won this veto. Hell, I was skeptical what she would do if she won the veto. I'm gonna keep it a bean. Everyone says she would have targeted Alyssa, but I don't know. This is why heading into this veto comp, we need Xavier, Alyssa, or Hannah to win it. Feeds return from the Veto comp around 5:40 p.m., where Hannah the Huntress is revealed as the winner. Chicago, stand up. Chi-Town, stand up. All right? Let's get it cracking. SB gotta go because Hannah only beat her by 23 seconds in this Veto comp. 23 seconds, y'all. Heck no. And I think it's so perfect that she beat her by the amount of seconds that was Michael Jordan's number, and she's from Chicago. That lets you know she goated in this mug. But anyway, and please believe SB is super salty she lost by such a small margin to the one girl she was always worried about. Turns out Hannah won Veto and chose all 3 noms to go to a movie with. I guess it's like a luxury comp, I guess. This was savvy gameplay from her. Jury management wise, it's ingenious for Hannah's game because now she gains more favor from SB than Tiffany. Uh-oh. This girl, I told y'all, she gonna yoke Tiffany. Maybe she's the Steve Moses. Let's keep it a bean. Claire, I think you think you're Hannah when you're not, all right? I'm gonna keep it funky. SB hands down votes for Hannah to win now because she didn't lie to her face to get her out. She beat her in a comp. And if the movie picks weren't already great individual gameplay from Hannah, she also told Cams by herself she plans to take Xavier off the block to improve her position in Final 6 and gain more trust from him. This goes perfectly with the conversation they just had the night before and Xavier trusting her the most while in solitary confinement. Hannah is playing to win, and she is setting herself up to beat anyone among the 6 if she keeps this high frequency of strategy coming and manages to add more comp wins to it. I'm happy Xavier didn't have to win 2 vetoes in a row to come off, and I'm also happy, super happy, Hannah is taking X off because Claire can't do any funny business because the third nom isn't replaceable. This was a masterclass of a week by Tiffany and Hannah, if I'm keeping it a bean. But this is where people are going to be mad at me. Technically speaking, Tiffany lost her HOH to Claire. Claire and Hannah technically get more credit for taking out SB than Tiffany by the end of this week. Sure, Tiffany deserves some credit for missing Claire into doing her bidding, but she didn't compete in that veto to keep SB on the block either. History will favor Hannah the most this week, more than Tiffany, because she sealed the deal to avenge DX. Tiffany got the ball rolling, but it's hard to win in the playoffs without a closer. And Hannah just turned into Maya Moore on SB's ass, boy. You fella dig me? She getting buckets in these streets. She's getting buckets. And who gonna stop her? I don't know. I don't know. Tiffany wants Hannah to know she can beat the men at anything, but she's putting a lot of pressure on Hannah to be her new DX if you pay attention. She wants to ride Hannah to the end, but Hannah winning this veto allows her to be able to throw comps in Final 6 without fear because X and Kai has her back. Now, Kylan might grow resentful of Hannah if she takes off Xavier, and he might not trust Hannah anymore after that. He might choose to go with Big D and Tiffany to Final 3 or something. I don't know. There's a lot of different ways this game can go down, y'all. A lot of fans are clowning Xavier and Kylan for being visibly salty about losing the veto, but y'all need to understand a lot of this is probably acting. Kylan has to be bummed out in front of SB. Xavier also can't make it seem like he expects Hannah to save him. For the cookout to remain hidden, it's very smart for both of these men to sulk in their failure a little bit. But come on. Y'all know Kai and X love they little sis Hannah. They not mad she won it. I mean, I just think Kylan might be mad SB didn't win it, but I don't think he's mad Hannah won it necessarily. But this needed to be done, and Kylan will be all right. And honestly, this is what he deserves for not being trustworthy during the HOH comp in itself. So this is how we do. You know, at the end of the day, I thank you, Kylan, for accidentally winning HOH 2 weeks ago because SB got out DX, and I feel like no one else would have did that week. So I give you some credit there, but you also made some mistakes along the way. I've been seeing some Tiffany stands mad at social media over Hannah taking Xavier off, further proving that this fan base can be very anti-black male. But now they have pivoted and started a new narrative where they hope Kylan gets jealous of Xavier and targets him because of this. You know your game is good when women finally start winning comps to return favors and people are mad about it. It's almost as if they want Hannah to forget everything her big bro X did for her so she could have those moments with DX in the first place. If Xavier doesn't take out Brent, DX and Hannah are walking on eggshells during jury. Say what you want, but Xavier and Hannah have each other's backs because they both realize this alliance doesn't really work without their logical perspectives. To like Hannah's game but not like Xavier's game makes no sense. To like Xavier but not like Hannah makes no sense. Because both never put anyone above the 6 even though they could have. Xavier could have had a dreaded men's alliance. Hannah could have just coasted with French kisses. But the mission was the priority, and for that reason, I truly appreciate the work of these two players specifically. I genuinely believe Hannah is the only player that could beat Xavier in Final Two if she stays on this trajectory. This isn't about playing Xavier's game. It's about showing black men that you appreciate their sacrifice to keep you happy as a black woman. Hannah gets it, and that's why she gets along with every black man this season, while Tiffany and Ozza have had problems with either Big D or Kylan in the past. Logic can only take you so far, but when you are logical and on code, the sky is the limit. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm ready to answer y'all questions. I'm excited about this week. Xavier's going to come off. Kylan and SB will be on the block heading into Thursday night. And SB will be sent to the Shadow Realm for taking out DX. And I can't wait to see the clip and sequester of her walking up in there on Brittany. On Brittany and DX. Oh, man, it's going to be great. But this is what we love about this game, right? We love the fact that someone can be on the bottom one week and then the next week the clapback is real. Tiffany, let's keep it real. Her game was completely compromised and exposed last week because Claire and DX was on the block. She wanted DX to stay over Claire, but she was pushing a feminist movement to keep DX. She was everywhere. This week, she slowed it down because the spotlight was all on her wisely. I commend her for that. And she was able to get very valuable information. Possibly she could turn Kylan against Xavier, possibly. But Hannah doing what she is going to do and taking Xavier off, I think is doing nothing but putting her in an even more solidified position heading into Final Six, and you can never knock that. I'm on my way to the live chat, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to hear y'all thoughts on this week. I hope y'all enjoyed this rant. Please do not forget to hit that like button for the kid on my way in. And hell have no fury like women scorned. SB, you pissed off a lot of them. She pissed off everybody. You feel it, dig me? They want free smoke, ayy. Free smoke, ayy. And I'm going to let y'all know now, if your question is emotional, I'm just going to skip you. You know what I'm saying? I'm here for the logic. Yeah, B Grizz, he is an OG though. B Grizz always been this way. He was this way before BB23. You know what I'm saying? B Grizz been shooting from the hip. You feel it, dig me? Claire really thinks she has all the power. She thinks she's in control. I'm saying, bruh, like, hey, she is as tone deaf as it gets, bruh. Like, I would love to interview a DX fan that voted for her to win. To get this, to get $100 like 2 weeks in a row and go like, what was your thought process? Like, what did you expect Claire to do? I'm pretty sure you did not expect her to get SB out. You expected her to do something that would shake everything up. And let's be real, Claire. Your only way to win this game was probably taking SB to the end because she's so hated for getting DX out. I think this is a massive choke. How does she expect to win? You know, how does she expect to win? It makes no sense. Oh, okay. Ghost, I actually mentioned Kylan saying that in the goodbye messages earlier in the rant. But basically, if it was an agreement that they all came to and he crossed it, then even more of a reason why, at the end of the day, I think he's on the bottom of this alliance right now, especially after this week. He's driving people nuts. Patrice Wyatt asked the question, do you think Tiffany's weakness is her talking too much? I don't think it's her talking too much necessarily. I just think she has a lot of information at her disposal, and there are moments where she wants that instant gratification. Sometimes you got to be patient. The fact that Kylan trusted her enough to admit to not throwing another comp that was supposed to go to her, I mean, wow. Like, that shows great gameplay on her part for him to be that dumb. Or it just shows how dumb he is, similar to Claire, whichever one you want to go for there. But at the end of the day, we're getting closer and closer to the end. People are going to start feeling and smelling and touching that money, and you're going to see different ambition from a lot of players, yo. And at the end of the day, man, listen, the edit Tiffany got right now seems a bit Teflon. All right? She got her HOH. Everyone saw her son. I mean, absolutely no disrespect when I say I don't want to be nowhere near her in Final Two right now. Especially when you got DX fighting for her in that jury. You know he going to be the leader of that jury house too. Woo! I'm telling you, man, And see, that's the thing. And now I think DX is going to get AFP, but after an episode like tonight, I think Tiffany still has a shot. I think she still does. Legend of the East said, "Did you see the cookout making it official in the bathroom? Oh, that was a dope scene. I didn't mention that in this rant. I thought it was really dope. I hope production shows that scene. Now, it wasn't much. It wasn't much. It was just them all coming together in a huddle. 1, 2, 3, cookout. Yeah. June Song celebrated this. She was like, "My work is complete." She said something like, "I can retire now in happiness." She said something funny. I always appreciated June Song because she's always been a great ally for stuff like this. So shout outs to her as well. But yeah, 100% coach. I really did like that scene. And it's good to see. It's just a shame the triple most likely will stop them from getting a legit scene like that together. Be like, look at us, look at us, look at us. We won't even get to see the six for a week on feeds together. But to be honest, maybe production don't want that because it might get a little too emotional in that house. Whoever gets put on that block first, man, they're gonna be mad. Rod asks question, Coach, do you know what the veto comp was? It seems to be a puzzle of some sort that incorporated that in, uh, it was kind of similar to BB Comics in the fashion that you had players like how like you have body parts from certain players. You might see their eyes, their nose, their face, or something, and then you have to like put that with a certain date or something like that. It's to that extent from based off feeds how it sounds. So it seems like a comp you usually would get later in the game, but they gave it to us a bit earlier, or at least that kind of themed comp. But it sounds like something that's worth watching on Wednesday live. And patrons get an exclusive rant on Wednesday night, and I'm gonna give y'all my instant reaction to that one as well. Hmm. Tiff and Kai uh, each have been in the selfish boat. Don't doubt they'll be the first two to go from Cookout. I think it's highly probable both of them could be the first boots, but I'm also aware that anything can happen in this game. And if Claire outlasts Alyssa, then that gives the women a 3 versus 2 advantage in Final Six. These are the facts. This isn't me causing no gender stuff. This is me telling you the truth. And this is how the women are going to play it. And this is how the men are going to play it if they're worth their salt. This is just what you do in this situation. So a lot rides on next week. If Alyssa goes, the women have a huge advantage in Final Six. If Claire goes next week, the men have a huge advantage in Final Six. And next week will be, in my opinion, a preview to what is to come in Final Six. And when you just look at it on a macro scale, it low-key is the preview. The Final 8 HOH will show you how Final 6 probably will be determined. Now, I'm not saying this is guaranteed. I'm just saying that extra number and that less number on one side is going to make a difference. Now, here's the argument. Now, here's the thing. Azza could flip on Hannah and Tiffany and just make it 4 versus 2. I mean, not 4 versus 1 if Alyssa outlasts Claire heading into final. Azza might just flip for her own game and say, hey, Tiffany, I'm sorry. She might just expect it to be a double and she might flip on Tiffany. You never know, coach. But man, oh man, oh man. I'm telling y'all, man, because it feels as if the pressure's on Hannah to take Alyssa out. It feels that way. Because Tiffany refused to throw up Alyssa this week over Big D. It feels like, okay, I'm going to get SB out. Hannah, your job is to get out Alyssa. Hannah and Alyssa have always had a pretty good relationship. I don't think Hannah wants to be the one to take her out. I think if the women had it their way, they would prioritize Azza doing that. But Azza's got a little bit closer to Alyssa, too. I'd argue she's probably closer to Alyssa right now than Hannah. So, once again, it lumps it all back on Hannah, which is not necessarily fair. This is what happened to Xavier throughout the game. But once again, this is why they relate so well to each other. I think they both feel it. They both see, like, we're probably the most all-around players in this alliance, So we got to have each other's backs because we're triple threats. We're not one-trick ponies, Um, yeah. It was a memory/facial recognition game. Thank you, Stina. That was a great way to sum that up. I appreciate you. Last Done says, I think X will turn on Tiffany after the 6. She questioned him about being a bartender, and that left X shook. I think that convo made Tiff his target. Mm-hmm. You feel it, dig me, Tiffany? Why are you doing this? You know what I mean? You do not need to make an enemy out of Excalibur, Exodia. You don't need to do that, coach. Okay? Oh, okay, Ghost. All right, you just are. I understand. It's good to have you here, though, Ghost. You've been around for the longest, too, bro. No way does Tiffany win AFP over DX. America love. You right about that, Lexi. I mean, America love that man so much they allowed Claire to flop on his behalf. Bang! I'm sorry, I gotta clown some of y'all fans, man. Cause woo, man, y'all really thought Claire was y'all thought she was gonna be y'all thought she was gonna be Vanessa Russo out here, didn't y'all? Now to be fair, before the season I thought the same thing. But as time went along, I was like, I don't know. I feel like that 2 weeks of safety, call me crazy, it just made her a little, I don't know. It's like she lost that. I don't know. It's something about when you know you don't have to give your all, you always down tools. Just naturally. You know, during CV19, I'll say. Remember when there was no fans in any of these stadiums for any of these sporting events? Oh, yeah, you know I got to bring a sport analogy in here. Come on now. I wouldn't be the rant god if I didn't do that for y'all. But any sporting event you watched, you could tell the athletes weren't really giving they all because they didn't have the crowd behind them. You know, that energy, that adrenaline rush. You know, you see a fine girl in the second row. Oh, I got to dunk on this dude's head top. You know, I got to hit this home run she watching. You know what I'm saying? Any little motivation, all right? You feel it, dig me? Like, that will get that extra out of you. Now, also, if you're not in good shape, that extra pressure will make you get tired a lot faster, too. You know, because you get anxiety and stuff. But for these top class athletes, they need fans in the stadium. They need that added motivation, you know. So I'm basically mentioning this to say, I think that 2 weeks of safety, I think it made her a bit, not full of herself, but complacent. That's the word I'm looking for. It made her complacent, a bit lethargic, you know. And you always want to be in attack mode in a game like this. You don't want to be in a mode where you're just passive for 2 weeks. Like, oh, I just don't want to make myself into a threat, but I'm not going to really create any waves. I'm not really going to be part of anything. I'm just going to follow Tiffany around and hang around these black people and figure out who I want to target through that. That basically was what she was doing for 2 weeks. And see, ever since then, she kept getting thrown up. You know, so you got to connect the dots here that some people wasn't feeling that. You know what I'm saying? That take my kid to work day stuff. Tiffany was on with Claire. Some people wasn't feeling that, you know? So, but that's how I feel. Ooh, another 25. Ooh, y'all not playing games tonight, man. Do I got to do more Sunday rants? I'm joking, but this is from Buyer Quest 99. Your rants and play-by-play analysis is reminiscent of the legendary John Madden. Ooh, that's high praise, sir. That's high praise. Or ma'am. Okay? I'll by request 99, that is very ambiguous. I'm gonna say thank you and just put it there. I acknowledge you and appreciate delivery. Thank you, coach. Hey, you know what? Hold on, man. The Infinity Stone. I'm sending it to you via Bluetooth. You know what I mean? Boom. Now you got it. Thank you, coach. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. And I appreciate anyone who appreciates the work. That's for damn sure. You know what I'm saying? Cocaine Willie funny. He said FSB. FSB, and I said that. Low key, that is one of the funniest video clips of all time that Tiffany has. Just saying FSB, and I said that. That is classic, dog. Classic. Shout outs to Whitney. He says Claire was just way too passive for my life. Yep, that's the word I was looking for too. She had a great read on the game early on and just got complacent. Yep. I promise I didn't read your comment. I was thinking of that word. I was like, what is the word I'm looking for? It's like not full of herself. That's why I said lethargic on top of it, just to show I ain't like these other creators copying me. But Coaster Claire, coach. Look, hey, Budgie ain't playing games in these streets. Steve P asked the question, why do you think people love DX? He's being viewed like a god. Ooh, Steve, you bringing up something very key. It does feel like it's a bit bizarre, the worship. It does feel like some worship, some false idolatry popping off. I gotta be honest, y'all know me. I brought this up before, you know. at the end of the day, I like the game that DX played, but he also made some mistakes. But with that said, though, you got to understand the Asian community did not have a DX. They had James, who kind of felt like a fake Donnie. No disrespect, James. I understand that you was in the military and stuff. I respect your sacrifice and I respect your service. Don't get it twisted. I'm not trying to disrespect you, James. I'm just saying that I believe the Asian community feels like DX is more so like them than Asian James was. If that makes any sense, Asian James felt like an archetype that happened to be Asian. DX feels like an Asian player that was a fantastic archetype. I think that makes sense. Well, he was a new archetype for Asian players. Yeah, because DX was as tall as anyone in the house, okay? So he broke that barrier. Athletic as anyone in the house, broke that barrier. He got along with a whole bunch of black folks, broke that barrier. Hey, man, the same way I'm proud of Xavier changing the norm for black men to be casted for or to be put in casting in future seasons, I'm also happy for the Asian community as well because DX is fantastic. And kudos to someone who commented in the live chat in the last rant saying KC is also Asian. She won the game a few seasons ago. I forgot about her. I was talking about how June Song won like 15 years ago. KC just won 3 years ago. So at the end of the day, yeah, it's our time, you know. But with that said, hey, man, there's nothing. I will never tarnish DX's legacy because I do appreciate his sacrifice, too, to the Cookout's reign, you know. Definitely Jose Vasquez, Chi-Town represent. V Grizzly says Xavier's our Tamar. You know what? That's pretty funny right there on the low. All right, that's pretty funny, dog. A pretty lady says Claire's a dud. I thought she was an undercover women's basketball player. So you're saying she can dunk a basketball? You set me up for that. That was a softball, coach. I appreciate it. All right. Now that was some fan service I had to provide right there. Oh, James did win AFP. There you go. So that's even more reason why I think DX gonna run with this one because he's way more loved than James was. I mean, James was liked for a lot of his pranks, not necessarily the gameplay implementation. He won comps too. Don't get it twisted. But I definitely feel like DX is above and beyond more of a star than even Asian James ever was. Clayton Davis asked the question. The true question is, will Derek F. ever say, I vote to evict? Oh, and by the way, I got to give y'all a t-shirt for DF for the, i.e. vote to evict. I got to make one of those for y'all. A lot of people been demanding that in these streets. So look out for that in the Cookout Crew collection in the store near you real soon. You feel it, dig me? And don't hesitate to join Patreon as well, ladies and gentlemen, because the exclusive rant will be Wednesday night and it will be lit. But ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you could, please do not forget to like this video, comment underneath it, and share it with all the fans of Big Brother 23 that you rock with. I'm, of course, Dave Smith of Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. And I hope y'all had a blast here tonight, because I sure did, on the first Sunday night rant of the season, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you all enjoy yourself. So I'm out. Deuces. Until next time. The stones, they have a mind of their own. If I snap, you'll disappear. Just like Sarah Beth Biles. You don't got a balance beam this time, do you, coach?